friends, it's Grace, and today I've got my November reading wrap-up. So in November I read 23 books, and thank goodness for audiobooks because I only read 3 physical books. Between traveling and family being in town for the holidays, I have not had time to read much. So out of the 23 books that I read, 3 were physical and 20 were audiobooks, so I'm glad they exist. The first book I read was Frenzy, which is the last book in the House of Dark Shadows series. It was a reread for me. I think I talked in my last wrap-up about how I loved this series as a kid, and I was just rereading them because I just nostalgia and everything. I enjoyed the series overall, but it's like pretty close to middle grade. It's between middle grade and young adult, and so like I wasn't quite sure what I thought of it. Really, what in the heck are you doing? But Frenzy was definitely my favorite of all of them, and I gave it 4 stars as opposed to the other ones being 3 stars. Next, I did an audio reread of the 3 Dark Crowns series in preparation for 5 Dark Fates. So I wasn't a huge fan of this series the first time I read it. I gave them all like 2 stars, like maybe one of them was 3 stars. But this time around, I actually gave them all 3 stars. And then I did an audio read of 5 Dark Fates because I don't own it physically. And that one I gave 4 stars actually, so that was my favorite of them. I thought it was a good conclusion to the series. A lot of stuff happened. Next, I did a reread of Enchanted, which was one of my favorites as a kid. I was really feeling like going back to my childhood this month, obviously, and so I reread this. I gave it like 2.5 to 3 stars. It's really episodic, and so I wasn't like loving it the whole time, but it's such a cute little children's story, and so like that, it has that going for it for sure. Next, I read City of the Lost, which was a recommendation from my best friend Jess, who you saw in some previous videos, and she's Wild Book Babe on Bookstagram. I actually enjoyed it. I didn't expect to enjoy it. It's an adult thriller thing, and it's by Kelly Armstrong. I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was very intriguing. It was interesting the whole way through, so that was awesome. Next, I also did an audio reread of the Two Princesses of Bomar, which was another favorite growing up. I remember reading this out loud to my siblings because I loved it so much, and I remember like all the like epic poems in here, like writing them out in a notebook. Like, I loved this book so much, and reading through it again is so good. I gave it 4 stars. It was super great. I listened to this on a plane going back from Texas to come back home to Tennessee. Don't remember if I mentioned this earlier, but my reread of Enchanted was also audiobook. So far, no physical reads. Next, I listened to the Young Elites series. I read the Young Elites before, but I didn't like it. I gave it like 1 or 2 stars, but I like owned the rest of the books, so I did want to finish them eventually. I just really didn't like it, which is surprising because I love Marie Lu. Like, I love Legend and Warcross. I love those series. But the Young Elites I didn't like, so I tried it on audio. Whenever I try to reread something I didn't like before, audio is a good option because it's just a different format. I still only gave it 2 stars, but it was better than reading it physically because just audio takes less effort. And then I read these on audio for the first time and gave the Rose Society 2 stars, and I actually gave the Midnight Star 3 stars. Overall, not a huge fan of the series, not for me, but the 3rd was definitely my favorite of them. Next was my first physical read of the month, which was The Dark and Hollow Places by Carrie Ryan, which is the conclusion to the Forest of Hands and Teeth trilogy. I gave this 1 star. This is one of my least favorite reads of the month. So each book just got worse for me. The first one was 3 stars. It was cool, but not as great as I thought it was when I was younger. The second book had the whole love triangle thing I didn't like, that I talked about in my last wrap-up video. And then this one was just absolutely so hard not to DNF. Like, it was so difficult. It was so... I deserve an award for making it through this because it was so hard. I don't remember what I didn't like about it. I just remember that it was all awful. I just didn't like any of it. Any of it at all. Didn't like it. Next, I did an audio read of A Darkness Absolute, which was the second one to the City of the Lost, and I enjoyed that even more than the first one. I gave it 3.5 stars, and this one was definitely even more intriguing than the first one, which is cool, and I'm excited to read the rest of the series, and usually I read a series all at once. What are you doing, Belly? Are you just hiding your... She's camera shy. She's just hiding her face behind my arm. But I'm excited to read the rest of the series, but I'm trying to pace myself because the last one comes out in like February, and I don't want to listen to them all now and then not remember them by February, so maybe I can take one a month. Like, they're not, I don't know, maybe that'll work, maybe it won't, maybe I'll forget everything and just it'll be a struggle. Next, I did an audio reread of The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King and The Lost Sisters, which is the novella in between them, in anticipation for The Queen of Nothing. These are 5 stars. These are some of my favorite books. I absolutely adore them. And then I finally got to read The Queen of Nothing, and it was as amazing as I expected, if not more so. It was 5 stars, easy. Every single book in the series was absolutely 5 stars. My only problem is that I need more. That's not enough. 3 books with Cardin and Jude, that's not enough, right, Belly? Belly says yes. So far, I have 3 copies of this. The original copy, the Barnes & Noble edition, and the Owl Crate edition. And I have more coming too. I don't know if there'll be special editions. I don't really know if I'll have duplicates that I'll sell, but so far I have 3 copies, and it's deserving of it because it's so good. It was such a good conclusion. I loved it so much. Belly loved it. Wendy loved it. My mom loved it. It was my mom's favorite of the 3 because she listens. I've gotten her addicted to audiobooks, and I did not think she would like The Cruel Prince, but she did, and she loved it. And the 3rd one was her favorite. I just need more of Cardin and Jude. I need more. Because 3 books is not enough. And now I'm in mourning and will probably be for the rest of my life. Next, I listened to The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and this one I had heard a lot of good things about, which is why I listened to it, and I didn't like it. I gave it 1 star. It was just boring to me. I loved the idea of like how this one guy wakes up in a different body of guests at this party every single day to figure out this mystery. Love the idea. I didn't like the execution. It felt super boring and just, I wasn't intrigued. When it was over, I was like, I'm glad it's over. Next, I did a Skyward reread in anticipation for Starsight, and this one was also an audio reread. The audio was awesome. The narrator is great, so much so that like I'm almost tempted to listen to Starsight instead of read it physically, even though I have the physical copy. I forgot how good this is. Like, I'm not usually into sci-fi, but this is a very solid 4-star read for me. I think actually the first time I read it, it was like a 3.8. It like wasn't quite as solid of a 4-star, but this time around I was like solid 4 stars. It is so good. Characterization is amazing. The plot's really interesting. There are definitely times when I'm like, we don't need all these training sequences. We don't need all of them. They can be moved down a little bit. But other than that, this is just, it's really phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what happens in Starsight, which I'm hoping to start as my first read for December. So my last 2 reads were both audio reads, and the first one was Lock Every Door, and this is like a horror thing. What are you doing? She's sniffing her sister. Wendy's just sleeping on my lap. So Lock Every Door was super good. I gave it 4 stars. It was interesting the whole way through. It was super unique. I've never heard of anything else like it. And the twists were so good. I thought it was really well written, well narrated. Really enjoyed it overall. Would definitely recommend it if you're looking for something creepy. And the final book that I read this month was an audio read of The Dark Half by Stephen King. Like I said, slowly working my way through some Stephen King stuff. Obviously not all, because that's impossible. I enjoyed this one. I gave it 3 stars. I actually didn't think I would like it as much as I did because it didn't sound all that interesting to me, but it was more interesting to me than I expected it to be. It's like about this author whose pen name comes to life and starts murdering people, and that just didn't sound like it was going to be good to me, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, thought it was pretty cool. So those are all the 23 books that I read this month. Overall, I think it was a pretty good reading month considering I read 23, but it didn't feel that great. Oh, they're cuddling. It didn't feel that great because of how I only read 3 physical books. The average person reads like 5 books in an entire year, so I should still be proud of myself. And I am on track to hit 250 books by the end of the year. My goal was 200, but I bumped it up to 250 after I passed 200. Now I'm at 228, so my goal for December is to read like 12 physical books, 10 audiobooks. It'll probably be more, honestly. It might be less physical and more audio, but I'll at least hit 250. So I'm really excited, and I'm excited that it's the Christmas season. Let me know down below how many books you read in November and what your favorites were. Thank you so much for watching, and come back on Friday to see my next video.